I think the big question that Wall Street's been considering is, will there be another stimulus package that comes, at least from a policy perspective, when dealing with this pandemic? And I think the answer that most investors have assumed to this point is no, we will not see one, at least not before the election. Are they right in their thinking?
Yes, absolutely. That opportunity was killed back in July when Speaker Pelosi said that she was not going to take any deal lower than $2.5 trillion, which is beyond really the capacity of both the House and the Senate to have a bipartisan vote to approve, much less the president sign.
I believe that both Steven Mnuchin and Jay Powell will probably say today in their testimony that they think more is needed. We've seen better economic numbers, but there's still a lot of pain out there, people who haven't seen the additional unemployment benefits for 9 weeks now. What do you think is needed? What do you think is necessary?
Well, I think you should have some modest extension of unemployment benefits, yes. But you need substantial support for small businesses so they can make it through what is still a major economic shutdown in most of our states. What I'd like to hear from Secretary Mnuchin is a broad outline of our economic recovery prospects, the necessary policy to make that happen, the necessary fiscal support for that. And I'd like to hear from Chairman Powell is the limits of the Federal Reserve's capacity to support this economy and the role of Congress for fiscal stimulus.
If these two gentlemen, I ask this because it seems to me that both sides are kind of set in stone with what they'd like, and there's a big hole between the two. You mentioned Nancy Pelosi looking for $2.5 trillion on this. The package that most Republicans have lined up behind is more like $660 billion. There's a big gap between the two. If you heard from these two gentlemen today that they think more is necessary, that something like helping out states and local municipalities would be something that they would advocate, would that change your mind on that perspective?
No, well, I've talked to them regularly, and I know that additional support is needed, but we don't have the necessary data from the states on loss of sales tax revenue, which is not evident in most states, much less what is going to happen from income tax. So we still need more data to understand the level of support for states. But what Speaker Pelosi offered was a bill that was mostly about non-COVID related spending. So let's stick to COVID related spending and let's get a more modest package. And I say more modest. What I'm talking about is a spending bill that is either the largest or second largest in American history. So I still think there's substantial economic support, fiscal support that's necessary.
I mean, that's really interesting, though. You just kind of put a ring fence around it that I haven't heard a lot of other politicians put there before. You think if a state or locality has suffered a huge amount of revenue loss because they haven't had the sales because things have been shut down, and so they haven't gotten the sales tax, which for most states makes up, or for many states, I should say, in the Northeast makes up a big chunk of their the income that they're bringing in, that should be something that Congress should move to shore up?
Well, what I'm saying is the overall state and health of these states is something we have to be mindful of. I mean, we have a federalist system, so states have independent taxing authority and strength on their own, yes. But I think there is some modest level of support that we can provide, given the unprecedented nature of this health pandemic that we're experiencing. But I don't think we should have a blank check, and nor should this thing be geared to states that are on the other side of this pandemic and doing quite well. And that was a substantial part of the Pelosi bill out of the House.